So happy to have you here, brother.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
So to kick things off, I'd love for you to share a little more about your life's journey. What were some of the pivotal moments, challenges, and triumphs along the way that have shaped you into the human being you are today?
Man, that's an action-packed question. Um, First and foremost, like starting out with my experience with chiropractic, because I'm a chiropractic student. I grew up in a chiropractic family. My dad, both my uncles, and my cousin, all chiropractors. Yeah, so I had a pretty tough time at birth. Like I was a C-section baby. Excuse me. And yeah, I had water in my lungs, fluid in my lungs, and no one within the hospital knew what was going on until it was like, man, we need to get this baby to the ICU. We need to get him under like supplemental oxygen. And yeah, honestly, from what I've heard is like I wasn't supposed to be here. Like everything was going downhill. The nurses were actually ignoring my parents. And the reason they're doing that is because they didn't want to get attached to the family that was about to lose their child. And so my dad, being the chiropractor that he is, he went and, you know, his belief is when the body has a free, uninhibited nervous system, it's able to heal and adapt, grow the way it's supposed to. So seeing with my birth trauma being a C-section, it's like, man, this kid is not adapting to something right now. So we need to get him adjusted. So he went, adjusted me full spine, and he swears he adjusted. It was the last adjustment, adjusted first bone in my neck, which is called the atlas. And that was the point where my breathing changed. I started taking deeper breaths. My skin went from cyanotic blue to like a flesh color, and that was the turning point where I started to express more signs of life. And so looking back at it, like chiropractic definitely saved my life. And it's something that's completely neglected, right? There are children out there that are being born and no one's thinking about this stuff. It's like, let's just give them supplemental oxygen and hopefully they pull through. Or let's uh, give them some chemicals to be able to allow them to heal, right? But in actuality, we have that power within us. We just have to unlock it, remove the interference to allow that full expression of life, right?
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, truly something that could be utilized to help so many traumatic childbirths like this one. And you're a testament to that. And I know how much this kind of beginning of your life and your exposure to chiropractic has set the stage for the journey you're on now.
Yeah. Well, also looking at it, it's like these kids that have these traumatic birth traumas, right, that aren't corrected right away. Like these kids that aren't getting regular chiropractic care, they are having these things from birth manifest later in life. So all it is inhibiting the ability to adapt. You look at the origin of all disease is the inability to adapt to stress, whether that's physical, chemical, emotional, spiritual. It's the inability to adapt. And when that happens, that's when disease manifests. So if your nervous system, which is the system that deals with stress on a day-to-day basis, right, it allows us to be able to sense our environment and be able to react to it. If that is interfered with, or we're not able to properly sense our environment, then that's when disease manifests. That's where the stress starts to build up, and then it starts to pour over and starts to manifest as disease. So there's so many things nowadays that are idiopathic, right? There's no known cause for it. But in actuality, they have to look within. That's all they have to do. And that's chiropractic is a beautiful way to be able to allow for that proper expression, to allow the nervous system to function properly and be able to adapt, cope, and deal and grow in the environment which it's in.
Yeah, I appreciate that. that perspective and illuminating that a little further for us. Yeah, so as we continue along, what are some other uh things along your journey?
So man, when I came into chiropractic school, I was thinking about like I wanted to have like a collective, chiropractic, but also wanted to have a gym and everything with PT. And the more that I got into, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But looking at the true power of the adjustment and really diving into that has been able to kind of open my eyes to the true power of the body. And through chiropractic school, I've been exposed or connected with my friend group that I have right now, which is very much like, yeah, I don't know what my experience would be without them, but they've opened my eyes to these different aspects of life. And one of the biggest things was, I'm sorry, Mom, for this, but last year, it was in April, I was seeking a little bit more clarity on life. And so I did a psilocybin mushroom trip. And that illuminated so many things in my life. Like I had bits and pieces figured out at that point, but that just allowed me to see the whole picture and reconnect with source, God, whatever you want to call it. But to be able to see the beautiful expression, all God is beautiful expression of all things, right? Through matter. And so to be able to see the big picture and see how chiropractic and how my life fits into it and how, or see what my potential is and to be able to serve with that potential in mind. It was a very, life-changing experience and something that's going to stick with me forever.
Wow. I love your vulnerability and your ability to express these things. And like we were chatting about right before we came on here, being able to speak about these transformational experiences that we go through, and it's oftentimes difficult sometimes because I feel like we keep them in, and we feel like maybe our families and our friends and society cannot relate to us. But the more and more people I meet, just like you, that have had these transformational experiences, it's really beautiful to witness you share about them, and how it has influenced your life.
Yeah, well, it's like I was saying, like we need to normalize these conversations because it is not what society portrays it as. Like looking at uh, all these different plant medicines, right? These are just ways to be able to reconnect us back to nature, back to God. That's the way I see it. Now, anyways, after experiencing it firsthand, right? So we need to normalize these experiences. And of course, it's like you have to do the work in between, right? You can't just go and blow the door hinges right off the door. Keep on doing that. You have to be able to do the work to be able to receive and to be able to, once you hit that dead end and all that self work that you're doing naturally, you seem to plateau. That's where it's like it's a beautiful opportunity to be able to uh, use this plant medicine to be able to open that door and allow you to give you a little bit something to chew on
Yeah,
and something to be able to work on. And like I see life as three major components. First, it's connection to self. Next is connection with others. And then through doing those two things is connection with source, connection with God. And so
amazing.
that's our life path. That's our life journey. And using these plant medicines is just a awesome way to be able to do that.
Yeah, and as we're talking about this is kind of something that's been coming up recently as I've been dabbling with AI, chat GPT, things like that are super cool tools. But I've been thinking, these plant medicines that have been here for all of time on the planet, are basically are the intelligence of nature, right? It's the natural AI system. And when you plug into that, you receive so much information, and as Carl Jung calls it, prima material on yourself, on the nature of life itself. And as AI, the tech AI is a very cool tool and definitely should be utilized. The utilization of the natural AI system of even just getting in nature and grounding your feet down into the earth is incredible when it comes to learning more about yourself, to healing yourself, and to ultimately healing the collective and the planet.
Yeah, that's yeah, beautifully put. Like looking at, but also looking at like AI, it's always going to be finite, right? Because of our finite capability as human beings, right? Whereas we look at the intelligence of nature, it is infinite. So when we tap into that internal wisdom, we're looking at thousands and thousands of years of evolution that is like all culminated to this point of who we are as human beings. We have the genetic code to be able to survive and thrive in this environment when we tap into that internal wisdom, right? So looking at like going back to plant medicines, like for example, ayahuasca, I've never done it, but from what I've heard, like ayahuasca is pivotal for many cultures. Like I know that you went down to Peru and experienced that. And it's like this whole culture. I, Forgive me if I'm wrong, but ayahuasca was actually a gift given from like this plant spirits. They didn't know the mixture to be able to create it. It was actually a gift from the plant spirits that told them to like the perfect combination to be able to create ayahuasca and to be able to connect with them on a deeper level,
Yeah.
right? So it's like we need to be tapping into that natural wisdom and being leaning into that more, because looking at the world now, like with AI
Yeah.
being created, is doing the complete opposite, is disconnecting us from that. Like yeah, I weep for the future, because with AI, it's an awesome tool, but yeah, if we lose true sight of
Yeah.
life, then
Yeah. We don't need to become a servant to the technocrats and the AI systems, but I think through these plant medicines and through our connection to earth and our reconnection to earth, it gives us that connection to self at a deeper level. And then from that, we can see clearly how to utilize things like AI as a tool. But it's no different than our mind being a tool as well. We can become a servant of our mind as well. So it's our ability, I think it's our relationship with the mind and with these tools like AI, even technology and things like social media. It all goes back to the relationship, and back to your point about the plant medicine spirits coming and teaching these tribes and these curanderas and shamans like the exact medicinal concoction for plants like ayahuasca. I think it brings up the combo conversation of that was also a culmination from an ayahuasquero that was asking for some way to heal his tribe, and the frog was presented to him and it showed him how to collect the medicine off its back and apply it to human beings to help heal his tribe. And I know that's something we share in common, as we've both recently worked with that medicine.
yeah, that's so cool. To be able to, people look at these different plant medicines and they don't understand. It's like, how did these come to be in the first place? Right. And so to hear like the origin stories, it's like for someone to just from complete like randomness, like be able to figure that out, it doesn't make sense, right? There has to be a universal intelligence. There has to be something larger at work to be able to communicate to us exactly how to, yeah, exactly how to connect. And it's
Uh,
like look at combo. It's like that. I did that last week actually, and just being able to completely cleanse your system and have that neurological reset, it reconnected me with my childhood self. It allowed me to be able to have, or be able to forgive my childhood self and have love for my childhood self. And so it's reconnecting me back to myself. And through doing so, it's reconnecting me back to God or the universe, right? Source. So it's all, we're talking about like doing that internal work, right? Because as above, so below, that internal work, what resides inside, it it has no other option but to be expressed within our environment. Like looking at AI, when you're talking about, uh, it's just a perfect representation of what goes on within our mind, right? That is just a perfect representation of this educated mind that we've cultivated, and how it's getting in the way of interfering with that connection, with that innate internal wisdom that we all have, right? So it's like, it's just it's a perfect representation of what's going on outside. And that's why we need to go within to be able to reconnect. And it's like, yeah, not many people are doing that nowadays. We're living in a society that's just disconnected, right? Disconnected from ourselves, and being disconnected from with ourselves, it's like disconnected from the world around us.
Yeah, so the invitation is to find the ways to reconnect, right? And chiropractic being a pivotal piece in helping us reconnect and put the pieces of the vase back together that, may have been fragmented through our childhoods and through our life situations. We get divided, we get fragmented from the world. And chiropractic and plant medicine and yoga and these things are ways to help us re-pick these pieces back up and remember, and then, embody at the deepest level we're capable of, and return to that true nature. So that being said, many people may not fully understand chiropractic work, thinking it's just about cracking backs. Can you enlighten us on the new age of chiropractic work emerging?
Yeah. Well, there is some cracking, but it's for a purpose, right? A lot of people think that it's just musculoskeletal, meaning like we're just adjusting joints that hurt because of, neck pain, back pain. But what we're actually doing is influencing the nervous system. We are doctors of the nervous system and the spine. And through the chiropractic adjustment, we're allowing or optimizing the nervous system to function at a higher capacity. So you think about this is the main system. This is the brain, the spinal cord, and all the nerves that go to every cell, tissue, and organ within the body. So what happens, I kind of view it as like an electrical circuit. What happens when one of those lights, one of those cells is dimmed? There's not 100% power going to that cell. There's lack of expression. There's lack of light going to that part of the body. Right. So all we do with chiropractic is we turn that power to 100%. So there's full communication between mind and body and full expression, and allowing the cells to maintain proper function. Right. So it's like through maintaining this nervous system, and there's many other body works that go into this, such as like yoga. I know I've been doing a lot more yoga lately, and chiropractic and yoga go hand in hand together, because they both go into mapping out our internal neurology. And the more we map out our internal neurology, we're able to map out our external environment. And the more we're able to map out our external environment, the safer we feel, right? And that's one of the main pillars of healing, is safety, providing a safe space to be able to have that full expression. And looking at it, so I know I'm rambling, but I need to talk about posture. So people think it's like, oh man, my posture is so bad, I need to work on like sitting up straight and being more conscious of it. It's like, yes, but it's like, why is your posture bad in the first place? And my belief, what I've seen, is posture is a direct reflection of the nervous system. When we start to get weighed down, when I view the nervous system as a cup, right? It can only take on so much stress before it starts to fill up. And then that's when it starts to overflow. And when it starts to overflow, the body isn't able to adapt to it. And that's when disease manifests. And so what does an overloaded system look like? I kind of picture like the dog that's all like hunched over with its tail between its legs. You know, humans aren't much different, right? We start to hunch over. We start to protect our vital organs because we want to seek safety first and foremost. And so how does that express? We start to hunch over. We start to curl our shoulders over. We start to have these tight suboccipital muscles, which present as headaches, back pain, neck pain, but it also presents as arrhythmia, GI problems, like all of the nerves that come out from the spine. If your spine isn't moving properly, it influences those nerves. So by allowing for proper movement in the spine, we're actually improving functionality of the entirety of the human body. It's not, it's not just localized here and there. It's like you adjust one area, you influence the whole system. So looking at posture again, it's like as we start to bring this person up into this space where they're able to sit up straight, right? It is not because we're structurally changing anything, right? We are influencing the nervous system. We're removing the interference to allow their system to be able to better deal with stress. When they're better able to deal with stress, that's when they start to feel safe in their environment and they start to sit up straight. It's kind of like, you know, if you're ever having a bad day, you just like put the stupidest grin on your face, right? And guess what? After 5 minutes, you start to feel good. You start to feel happy, right? Because by creating that movement, that pattern, you're releasing those neurotransmitters, like those positive neurotransmitters, opposed to if you're frowning, you're not, right? So it's like with chiropractic, it's just bringing people up. And I read this book by Jordan Peterson. He talks about lobsters and the neurology of lobsters and how like the head lobsters, like the ones with the biggest claws, the ones that get all the girls, their posture, right? They have their chest out, right? And they look at the neurotransmitters that are released with that. It's like serotonin, dopamine, all these positive neurotransmitters. Well, whereas you look at like the beta male or the omega male, and it's just like they have the small claws, they're all hunched over, right? It's because they've been beaten down, they're not able to readily adapt. Whereas the alpha lobster is able to sit up straight, right? He's able to feel good in his environment, be able to grow and adapt. Like he is the king of his environment. And that's what we do with chiropractic. We may make every single individual feel like the king of their environment so they can grow and heal the way that they're supposed to, and reconnect them back to that internalism within, that intelligence within, that power within that has been neglected for so long and which is pushed aside in mainstream society, right? We don't really talk about the healing power of the body.
Wow.
We talk about outside influence, and we talk about how the body needs these outside influences. It's like, oh, you can't heal without this medicine or these prescriptions, right? But all they actually need is to be able to look within and find that inner power within to allow that expression to come out.
Yeah, so chiropractic again as a tool for holistic health, to almost as if a key fitting into a lock that then unlocks that full expression, where it's not necessarily always a panacea or like a gateway to one's healing, but it's a potential tool to help this individual navigate to their fullest expression.
Right. Their fullest potential as a human being.
And I like what you said too about just kind of that survival state versus that regulated state. Because I came across a quote on LinkedIn this morning that says, it's by Renee Brown, and it says, "You deserve to be in environments that bring out the softness in you, not the survival in you."
Yeah. It's like vulnerability isn't something that it's not a weak characteristic. It is actually a characteristic of strength.
And I think when we're in that vulnerable place and we're in that softness, one, it's definitely not weak, but two, I feel like we're more creative, we're more heart-centered, we're more likely to be less reactive, more proactive. We care for individuals more in that place. But when we're in that place of survival, it's almost like everyone becomes an enemy around us, even the people that are trying to love us. And sometimes we can't seem to get through or connect with them, and they can't get through to us. And it's because sometimes we're in that perpetual survival mode.
Yeah, which disconnects us from, if we're constantly worrying about our external environment, it disconnects us from us, what's going on with us. Like I keep on saying, it disconnects us from that internal power, that innate power that every single one of us has.
And from that place too, like you said, the way you like to see it is like if you're disconnected from self and other, you're disconnecting from source, from God too. So you're not able to be at that, most clear connected place with the whole.
Mhm. And like talking about vulnerability, it's like how do you achieve true vulnerability? And it's like letting go of this false perception of yourself, letting go of ego to be able to truly connect with what's real, right? It's actually looking at like, okay, this is who I am right now. This is where I could be, right? And it's just portraying that which is real and not something that is like between our two ears, right?
Yeah. So as we move along, what are some of the most common misconceptions you've encountered about chiropractic work, and how do you address these in your practice?
Uh, the main misconception is, like I said before, that people think it's all about, cracking the back and getting rid of pain, right? Is so much more than that. Our whole profession was founded off of a guy that could not hear. He was deaf. And D.D. Palmer, there's many different versions of the story, but long story short, he got adjusted and his hearing came back, which is neurological in origin. It wasn't about neck pain, back pain. There's actually, if you can see behind me, that book, that big, thick book, is a book full of D.D. Palmer, his experiences adjusting people. He literally mapped out the entirety of the spine and he mapped out his results. And so he's like, oh, if you want to cure gout or if you want to help someone with gout, you adjust the seventh dorsal vertebra. Because he's just getting these absurd results through unlocking the nervous system. Now that we're looking at it now, and seeing the influence of chiropractic on the nervous system, we understand it. But back then, he was like, "Oh, well, you just adjust this, and this happens. People heal." So it's like my biggest message today is kind of getting rid of the myth of chiropractic, and it's like it's understood in mainstream society that chiropractic is this, but I want to show you the true power of what chiropractic has to offer. I'll share some stories here of chiropractic with my Uncle Tom. My Uncle Tom is probably one of the best chiropractors up there with my dad, but he was the first chiropractor in our family. And the results that he's seen is absolutely stuff that can't be explained by evidence, right? He's had people that were trying to get pregnant, couldn't get pregnant, infertile, and got them adjusted, got them reconnected, and they're able to have a child. Also, there's this one person with grand mal seizures, been having it for so many years, and one adjustment, never had a grand mal seizure again. It's crazy how these traumas manifest in the body and express when they're not able to readily adapt to stress, right? That's the biggest thing. Also arrhythmia. There he was actually telling me the story yesterday when we were on the phone. So he took his pulse and there was like a hiccup every 5 beats. He's like, oh, what's going on there? He's like, oh, I've had that since birth. They've tried to fix it. Nothing else could fix it. And my Uncle Tom says, like, well, if chiropractic helps with your, because they come in for back pain. It's like, if I help you with your back pain and help you with your arrhythmia, which is what you have right now, are you going to go and tell 5 people about chiropractic? And that was like his biggest thing, was to, spread the word of chiropractic. And he's like, doc, yes. Like, if you're able to do that, I'll definitely do that for you. And guess what? He booked him in for, I think, a week later, but the guy was so excited. He came in the next day and he said, doc, I'm having probably a hiccup every 63 beats, because he checks it every morning. And he's like, I went 63 beats without a hiccup. And he's like, that's awesome. Chiropractic works, because it does. We all have the tools to be able to heal and grow and adapt to our environment. We just have to unlock it. And chiropractic is a beautiful way to be able to unlock that true power within.
Very well said. And thank you for those examples of those miraculous healing events, which, are happening in various modalities around the world all the time. And it's incredible when we hear about them and we're like, wow, there's not always explanation, which, science wants to put more explanation to these things, but sometimes it's outside of that. But like you said, with the understanding of the nervous system, and that's something that was illuminated to me during my yoga training that I didn't even think about until now. And now it's like everything I think about is the fact that with modern neuroscience and just the more science evolves and we're looking into the nervous system much more, just how much these methods like chiropractic and yoga and stuff seem to be like provable and understandable. I think a lot more tangible for people, because it's like, okay, now we're looking at the level of the nervous system. How is yoga addressing the nervous system? How is chiropractic addressing the nervous system? And how that is, like you said, the root of so much disease and so much of our, failure to reach our full potential is locked up in our nervous system states.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like, chiropractic is just one vessel to be able to do that. There are many, many different vessels. Like I said, I've been getting more into yoga and how that has improved and clarified a lot of things within my life. It's just a perfect representation of like how everything, when done with the right intention, is a meditation. I look at Lauren, my girlfriend. She told me about this one video that she saw with Ram Dass and this elderly lady, and they were talking about just more existential things, like deeper meanings in the universe. And Ram Dass, like, how did you come to like find all this stuff out? And she's like, oh, I crochet. It's like, you can find meaning in anything if you look hard enough and deep enough and truly look at the signs. So it's like, yeah, chiropractic is just one vessel to be able to do so, but there are many vessels to do that.
Yeah. Could you share some simple tips or exercises that listeners could do at home to better their spine health or overall wellness today?
Oh man, just get moving. Whether that be go for a run or like go and do some yoga, stretch. I just read this book that is talked about how diluted exercise and movement has become nowadays, and how the motivating factors are definitely like outside in influence. They're what's the word I'm looking for? Extrinsic. Whereas like the true meaning of movement, it's intrinsic, and it's mapping out your own neurology. It's like figuring out who you are. And in doing so, you're able to just map out your external environment and so on and so forth, and reconnect you back to God, source, whatever it may be. So it's like, get out and get moving. Move every joint 20 times a day, every single joint, and see how your life improves, as well as, like, of course, a racing car needs racing fuel. So it's like making sure that you're eating a clean diet as well, because the nervous system, of course, when given the right tools to be able to talk to your body and heal it the way it's supposed to, it needs the proper tools. It needs proper nutrients to be able to use them constructively in the body, right? A racing car is not going to go anywhere if it doesn't have any gas, right? Or it doesn't have the proper gas. So it's making sure that you're satiating that demand within the body. But looking at like spine health, we are in this perpetual state of looking down at our phones, perpetual state of psychological stress. We don't really have stressors such as like looking for shelter or finding food or like defending against predators, right? A lot of the main stressors are between two ears right here, psychological stress. So it's being conscious of that, being aware, and being able to do things that fill your cup, because it's a lot more than just physical. It's mental, emotional, spiritual. It's all, health is all encompassing, right? So being able to look at it not just from this microscopic lens, but to be able to see the big picture. That's that's my biggest advice when it comes to maintaining like spine health and health in general.
Yeah, awesome, man. Super simple, and you can get acting on these kind of things today if you're willing to, and just finding those ways to move, get moving, and take a look at what you're eating, and take a look at the bigger picture here. A lot of what we've been talking about this whole time is just that holistic health aspect and how they all trickle into one another, and they all connect: mind, body, spirit. And not just saying that, but truly feeling that on an embodied level, what that feels like to feel fully into your mind, body, and spirit, and the union of that. Beyond chiropractic, what other practices, experience, or pivotal moments have significantly shaped you, both personally and professionally? And how have these influences translated into your unique chiropractic approach?
Yeah, so this kind of goes along the lines of that psilocybin trip I did last year. Being able to see the big picture of what we're doing here on this beautiful earth. Also, I've been on 4 mission trips so far, going to Jamaica, going to Haiti, going to Mexico. These are chiropractic related, but to be able to go out and experience life and to experience different cultures has really like shaped who I am and my perspective on life. And that just goes along with like mapping out your external environment, right? When you're able to acquire all these experiences, you're able to grab new meaning from life. You can live existentially and be able to, you could read something in a book a million times, but until you live it, you don't understand it, right? You have to be able to live it to understand it. So the biggest moment I would say would be chiropractic school in general. It's completely shifted my perspective, and being integrated into this community of like-minded individuals, it's been super empowering. And it's just been like looking at it, it's like the epicenter is, it's like a flame, and it's like just lighting all these candles to spread the light of these conversations, talking about how it's talking about psilocybin and mushrooms and plant medicines. That's something that has been highly neglected for many, many years, and how it's being unearthed, and we're having these conversations. There's definitely a turn happening. So to be a part of that through chiropractic is super awesome.
Yeah, I like what you pulled through there about travel and how that helps us map out our external environment. I've never thought about it that way, in similar ways, but I love how you put it into the idea that, we're mapping our internal environment with our nervous system, and then that gives us an ability to map our external environment. And then through accumulation of experiences and putting ourselves in these different situations and different environments around the world allow us to expand that capacity, it really seems like. And I like that you brought up too about your chiropractic school journey. And I know you've shared with me y'all's extracurricular clubs. And, what do you think the importance is of learning together with like-minded individuals, and that social component of also when we're doing this kind of healing work of having people to go along with it? Because I know sometimes things come up, traumas and emotions, and our ability to hold space for one another and help each other through this process, I think, is really important. You have any light to shed on that?
So looking at like the clubs and everything, it just goes along the lines of how important oral tradition is. It's something that can't be taught in a book. You need to get out and be able to work on the art of chiropractic, because it's not something that is taught, it's something that is experienced. And it's not until you truly dive into the experience that you're able to connect with people. And that's like the biggest thing with chiropractic, is being able to see where they're at and be able to meet them where they're at and provide a healing space for them to be able to feel comfortable, to grow and express who they are. I actually, my one buddy, he has an example of this one girl. He walked into the office, had like black, she's a teenager, had like black clothes on, hair's kind of in her face, very shy, very coy. And just through chiropractic care, I can't remember how long, it must have been like 4 months, because he does like 32 visit care plans. But guess what? She started pulling her, hair back, started expressing a little bit differently, right? So it's like these things that we think are completely separate, like personality and movement, like the physical, emotional, the spiritual. These things are just different. They're just layers of the same cake, right? They're all part of this. It's all one, right? So to be able to unlock that expression, of course, like if you can't move, you can't express. You look at like old folks that aren't able to move, their expression of life goes down, right? So it's like through movement, we're better able to express and have a higher connection to our spirit and who we are. So what was the last part of that question? You said you talked about clubs, and then
Yeah, just your ability to walk alongside other individuals and holding space for one another, and all, kind of the healing process alongside one another because of the emotional component.
yeah. So what the brain can't process, the body stores, right? When you get overloaded, your mind is like, no, no, we're just gonna give it to you, and you're gonna deal with it. And that's where these experiences, these stressors get crystallized within our body. The areas of information that become crystallized and interfere with proper expression of who we are. So through chiropractic, when we find these areas of density and we connect people back to that information, yeah, I've seen many times like emotional releases where people just start crying hysterically. And the first time it happened, it freaked me out. But now that I understand the true nature and how the nervous system works and processes stress, it's beautiful, because we're allowing people to be able to deal with these past traumas, allowing them to process, understand, and let go. And through doing so, we are lightening that density within the body, lightening it so they can have full expression of who they are. There's nothing inhibiting them from having full expression. So being able to hold space is super important, because if you don't have a space to allow for that expression, and also if you don't have the emotional capacity to be able to deal with that without it affecting you to the next patient, because that's a big thing. It's like if you allow it, you can collect that baggage, and by the end of the day, you're drained. So it's allowing the space, having a path of non-interference, allowing them to experience that path on their own, but with full support, right? That's like a huge thing with chiropractic.
Yeah,
And guess
thanks for
what?
sharing that.
When the Oh yeah, you're welcome. And that's the thing, when that emotional component is dealt with and processed, their back pain goes away.
Yeah. And we really noticed just how much, like, I mean, I remember when I first started going to like talk therapy, just how much like I put all my emotions in a shoebox. And, especially speaking to men in specific, but also women out there as well. But like the whole idea that the masculine male, doesn't need to express emotion and can't cry because you're weaker and all these things. So when we begin to do this kind of work, like we really uh you know it's a big thing to let go and to be vulnerable enough sometimes to allow yourself to cry and share these emotions, but in a well-held space, in a safe container where you feel like you can let these things out, it can be incredibly transformative for men and women both.
Yeah, that's a huge component, especially with me, that spoke, yeah, straight to my past experiences with growing up playing sports. uh Expression in that sense is interfered with or inhibited, and how much of that is interfering with our truest potential, or reaching our truest potential as men, right? We need more conversations about this nowadays, and shedding a light on exactly what you're talking about, to allow for full expression, full expression of who we are, and allowing us to be able to reach our truest potential as human beings.
Yeah. um Before we go here, a couple more things. What advice would you give to someone skeptical or fearful about trying chiropractic treatment for the first time?
I would say go find a chiropractor that you vibe with. That's the biggest thing. Find a chiropractor that you connect with, and then be vulnerable with them. Express what you believe in your perspective, and your doubts and insecurities. And if they're good at what they do, then they'll meet you where you're at and be able to help you along the way. But it first starts with being vulnerable and finding that person that you feel safe with. That's the biggest thing. Like I said, that's the main component of healing, is safety. So finding someone that makes you feel safe, heard, and understood.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you brought through those threads, especially with finding the resonance with someone, because so often, we see the marketing funnels online, we see all the different things we can do, the yoga classes, the chiropractic work, the diets, the detox programs, the coaches, the life coaches, the therapists, but they're definitely not all made the same. And not someone else's therapist might not be your therapist. Someone else's chiro might not be yours. Like finding that resonance with where you feel called and who you feel safest with will do a number, I think, in your ability to release, to be vulnerable, and to ultimately, come into the fullest expression of yourself.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, that you hit on so many points there. Like, the ability to be able to connect with others allows us to be able to connect with ourselves. That's a huge thing.
And from what I've noticed in the wellness space through my own journey, is that we have to strengthen our intuitive muscle when we're looking into these various paths, and like I call it, the paths of alternatives, right? And when we first kind of get on this path and this healing journey, we can almost feel inundated at times, or behind, or like we need to do everything and try everything. And I was definitely in that part on my path, but I ran into people that became profound transformers in my life for me, and they were all people who held incredible space, and I felt heard, I felt seen, I felt safe. And then I also met people along my journey where I didn't feel heard, didn't feel safe, And I felt like I came out of those experiences with them in a variety of methods, actually more confused and fearful from that encounter. So I'm just saying this to illuminate that it is natural for that to happen, I think, along our paths, but our guide should be intuition, looking for that resonance with individuals we want to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking within, like finding that intuition within to be able to direct us on this path. That's huge, because we have an internal intelligence that has been here longer than us. We're like, our educated experience is just a little blip on the timeline in comparison to the true power that has resided within living things for all of eternity. Right. So it's tapping into that pool of intelligence to allow that expression through us. Right. Like I was talking about, it's like our genetics have been evolving for thousands and thousands of years. So it's being able to have full expression of that intelligence within, leading into that intuition. That's huge.
And beautifully said, brother. To cap off the show, drawing from your own experiences and life journey, in your own words, what does it mean to live thrivingly?
Hmm. It means living a life of full expression, unapologetically, being you authentically, and doing the work. Doing the work is so important. People, they think that they're able to, uh, take the easy route and just rely on whatever it may be, like psychedelics or whatever it may be, to allow for them to reconnect. But we need to be doing the work, right? So it's like doing the work in between, experiencing every facet of life, the positive and the negative, because nature is not all positive, right? We need the negative to sustain existence itself. So, and also it's the law of polarity. It literally, the negative is what defines the positive within our human experience. So it's having zero judgment on that and experiencing all of it to allow for full expression and living thrivingly.
Wow. I absolutely love that definition. Thank you so much for sharing that with us here. Before we go, any last words to the audience here?
I just want to say thank you for having me on this platform to be able to express chiropractic. And I really hope that something, if anything, struck a chord within you today. And go see a chiropractor. It's not just for those that are in pain, that have neck pain, back pain, headaches, right? It's also for the healthy. These are, interference within our nervous system can happen without us feeling it. So go get your nervous system checked. And I swear, cross my heart, that you'll become a better person because of it. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, happy to have you here in this space. Um, could you share some avenues for people to get in touch with you or connect with you if they just like to follow along with what you're doing or potentially work with you?
Yeah, yeah. My Instagram. I don't really have much chiropractic stuff on there, but that's an avenue to be able to reach me. It's LISCOM__B. Yeah, you can follow me on there and just reach out on Instagram. Um, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm working on, since I'm 6 months out from graduating, I'm working on creating like a professional Instagram and a professional website for when I open up coming up in February. So keep a lookout, especially the people in near Boise, Idaho. Keep an eye out, because yeah, there's going to be another chiropractor over there to be able to help and support and facilitate your healing journey.
Awesome. Appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, thanks so much for being on here today, brother.
Hey, thank you, man. It's been a pleasure.